Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Energy Speaks Life podcast. I'm Coach Nrgy, the self mastery coach, speaker, court registered mediator, and author. This show is where you are able to gain valuable content on personal development and self improvement areas for those who want to achieve self mastery. This week, my guest today, we are talking about burnout and her personal experience of, of experiencing burnout while on the job. Please introduce yourself to our listeners and just let us know your information, your experience, or your knowledge with the topic that we are discussing today.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful to be here and to be able to talk to you about something that I think a lot of people go through and don't always know how to talk about it. Don't talk about it at all. Feel a lot of shame around it. I think it happens to the best of us, and it's all about how you handle it. So, like you said, my name is Shannon. I have a very interesting career path, which I think is part of this story because I don't think I'm a person that people would think would experience burnout, much less somebody who might admit it. So I actually have a master's degree in counseling, bachelor's in psychology, and wanted to work with adolescents. That was my career choice. I wanted to make sure that I was saving the world. When you asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be, I would tell you a pediatric surgeon. I would tell you a teacher. I would tell you, all these things that are out there saving the world. And legitimately today, I think I'm still trying to save the world in one way, shape, or form. So I started working in group homes at the ripe age of probably 22. Finished my master's degree at the ripe old age of 23. Looking back now at the age of 48, I'm like, wow, man, you've done a lot. And did that work for about 5 years. And I can tell you, it is still to this day the hardest job I've ever had. In those 5 years, I experienced a lot of things that my education never prepared me for. I had a young man, one of the young people that lived in our care, go home for Christmas and was shot in a drive-by shooting in his front yard. I then later had a young person that went through surgery, had a 38% curvature of the spine due to scoliosis, and had to get him through that, only to have him later shoot someone in a gang shooting and watch him get lost to violence in a different way. And then had another kid shoot himself accidentally while high holding a Glock 40. And that was all before the age of 27. So I burned out from that job, I think, for all the right reasons. That was a lot. And working in a group home, for those that are still out there doing it, that system has largely dwindled across the country. That is the toughest work that anybody can do. I left there and went to a local county agency working in alcohol and other drug prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery. I ran a 2-county, 8-jurisdiction, 80-man alcohol enforcement unit that worked off some federal funding to address underage drinking from a proactive community-based standpoint. So a lot of strategic planning and community-based work, coalition building. Again, kind of high stress, but more of the exciting variety as opposed to dealing with what I dealt with in my previous life as a therapist. From that point, I actually moved to Washington, D.C. in 2005 for personal reasons, and ended up in around 2009 working for the Office of National Drug Control Policy in the first administration of the amazing Barack Obama, and spent 4 years working for the White House, and then wanted to come back home to North Carolina. So I dipped out of the federal government, went to a national think tank, with the concept that if I worked at their headquarters for a couple of years, I could then take the job anywhere I wanted to live. Eventually landed back in Raleigh, North Carolina in 2014, Charlotte, North Carolina in 2015, and now I'm back in the Raleigh area in Cary, North Carolina as of May a year ago. So needless to say, I've had a lot. And there's very much a winding career. And I've been thinking a lot lately about that winding career and how, you know, I have a wonderful mentor by the name of Jack Claypool who asked me many, many years ago, what's your 5-year plan? And I was like, I don't have one. And he was like, you got to have a 5-year plan. And I was like, do you? I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years still, but I never thought I'd be doing the things I'm doing today. Today, I am the chief of staff for a major global company that if I said the name, you would know it. And I don't have their permission to say their name, so we'll just leave it at that. But my burnout occurred about 2 years ago, not due to the company itself, but sort of due to just some circumstances around what was going on. So I had this amazing opportunity to go work in a what's called a contract research organization in the pharmaceutical industry. So we were running clinical trials. Now, what you're going to say is, Shannon, you didn't know how to do that, and that would be absolutely correct. Nothing in my resume prior to that says that I should have had that job. But some good friends of mine owned the company and said, hey, we want you. Will you come work with us? And so I was like, yeah, sure. So went and worked with them and started out as their director of operations. And then the company was acquired by a private equity firm. And so they promoted me to be the chief operating officer. And so that meant different bosses, different stressors, just different pressure. And they told me pressure's it's going to be rough. I don't blame anybody. I don't blame anything on what happened, but I definitely know that I was done.
Mm-hmm.
I was done emotionally, mentally, spiritually. My staff was stressed out. COVID, we had gotten through COVID and survived COVID and sold the company in the midst of COVID. We were, slowly coming back to life in July of 2021. And I had had a long history of something called vasovagal syncope. And on top of that, I have 3 autoimmune disorders. And so anybody out there listening who has autoimmune disorders, that's just your body's just stressed when you have autoimmune disorders. And so the slightest tweak in your diet, your stress level, anything can really sometimes set your autoimmune issues off and make them worse. And so at about the age of 37, I tell this story with a little bit of a joke in that I was at the VFW with some friends in downtown Alexandria, Virginia. And that's the God's honest truth. I was. And I'm like, every good story starts at the VFW, I'm sure. And I felt faint. And I think I'd had a beer and just some snacks while we were there. So it wasn't like I was dehydrated or intoxicated or anything like that. But I felt my heart kicking from the inside out while I was sitting there. And then I felt like, oh, I'm going to throw up. And then so I go run to the bathroom. And then I realized that I had felt this sensation before when I had broken my foot. I don't know if you've ever been around somebody that's broken a bone. They will all of a sudden throw up or faint or whatever. That's just a vasovagal response. It's just your body telling you to get on the floor.
Okay.
It's just, it's just a fight or flight situation. And I was like, I've got to get out of this bathroom because it's nothing but, metal and concrete is what it felt like. I was like, I don't want to hit my head by myself. So I got out of the bathroom and luckily I was with a bunch of people and one of them happened to be a nurse. And she looked at me and she said, something's wrong with her. And I literally face planted into my friend, Zach. And he knew I'd been having some issues. I'd had one of these vasovagal attacks several weeks prior. And then I'd had one when I broke my foot, which was like a year prior to that. And so, anyway, he gets me home and everything's fine. I have a neurologist and a cardiologist at the age of 37, and nobody's really knowing what's going on. But I put together that when my heart rate drops and I have a naturally low blood pressure, that the perfect storm causes a blip in the brain, a blip of blood, lack of blood flow to the brain. And that's why I have these fainting episodes. So fast forward 10 years, I'm at work. I am under a tremendous amount of stress. I am really in my gut at that point, making the decision that I want to leave this company. And I love my friends who run it. And I even love the guys that bought it. I love my staff probably more than I should. I'm an Enneagram 8. I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram, but I've been studying it for many years. And as an Enneagram 8, I'm always rescuing the underdog. I'm always looking out for other people. I'm always, I probably take care of people more than I should. And it's something that I've definitely had to look at and work on. Um, but to get to when this all started, I walked to the bathroom. I had a meeting that was supposed to start at 2 o'clock. Walked to the bathroom and I just felt myself ping ponging off the walls. Like bing, 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 and it was like weird. And so I go to the bathroom and I come back and I walk into the office and I told the folks that were there, I said, "Can y'all delay this meeting 15 minutes? I need to lay on the floor," because I was like, I'm going to faint. And I learned at that point that if I just laid on the floor, my heart rate and everything would kind of level back out and I'd be okay. 2:15 hits. I get up off that floor, start that meeting like a good COO does. And I immediately knew something was wrong. And I got the meeting started and handed off to the next person that needed to speak. And I hollered for the coworker in the office next to me. I said, "Get me in my car." And she was like, "You don't need to drive." I said, "Get me in my car. I need to get myself home. I'm fine to drive, but I need to get in my car and get out of here." I get home, call my stepdad. He's a physician. And I said, "I am so dizzy that I don't feel safe." And he was like, "Just get some meclizine." I called a neighbor who actually went and got me some meclizine, took it. It didn't help. And I think I took the next day off, went right back to work, trying to go back into life, do whatever. It subsided a couple, I don't know, maybe a week or so later. I leaned down in my car to get something and stood up and was like, whoa, and just felt this sway take over me. And got in the car to drive to work because, whatever, I'll be fine. And pulled over in the parking lot of a Walgreens and just began to dry heave. And was like, something is wrong. Yeah. Went back home, called into work, and I said, "Y'all, something's wrong." So I went to go see my ear, nose, and throat doctor, thinking that I had vertigo. So get into the office, they're testing me for vertigo, they're testing my hearing, they're looking at my eyes, they're looking at my ears, everything's fine. I'm passing all of those quote unquote tests. And I continue to feel like I am rocking, bobbing, and swaying, like I'm on a boat. So if you've ever been on a boat and you've been seasick, the deal is to look at the horizon. And what that does is it helps your brain focus on what is still so that your body can learn to adjust to the motion. What my body started to do was to think that I was still on a boat on land. So the eye-brain connection was failing me. I totally by fluke found an ENT through a friend of mine, went to this ear, nose, and throat doctor. I was probably 2 weeks into this. I was reading everything I could on the internet for vertigo. I was watching videos. I was doing these exercises at home. I was like trying to get my life back. I was not able to work. The brain fog was so bad that by the end of the day, I would find making full sentences really hard. And I felt like my body was betraying me. And it was shutting down and there was nothing I could do about it. Finally go to this ENT. I had written out this list of all the things that I had tried to do, all the things that I was taking, all this, all that. And the nurse is like asking me, and I said, "Ma'am, I can't answer your questions. I just don't have it in me to do it. Here's the list." And that was kind of how my life was. I'm a very on it, go-getter. I mean, go all the time, like probably a lot of your listeners are. And then you get stuck and your body just shuts you down. And that's what was happening to me, to the point where I couldn't have conversations. I was too jumbled, too exhausted. I was too tired of talking, thinking. Breathing was really all I was willing to do. He walks in the room, Dr. Jonathan Moss, at Matthews Charlotte Ear, Eye, Nose, and Throat down in Matthews, North Carolina. If anybody ever ends up with something called Mal-Day Debarkment syndrome, or thinks you have it, he is the person to go see. I gave him his nurse that list, told her I couldn't answer her questions. He walks in the room. He is such a looker and he's a little bit cocky, just how I like my doctors. And he says to me, I know exactly what's wrong with you. And I was like, what? And he said, you have migraine induced vertigo. I said, I do not have vertigo. I am rocking, bobbing, and swaying. I am not spinning. He said, you have Maudé Bartman syndrome. So the difference between vertigo and Maudé Bartman syndrome is people with vertigo, there's a spinning feeling, and it's about the crystals in the ear. The crystals in the ear get out of place. Maudé Bartman is actually a neurological disorder where the eye and the brain lose a connection. And mine is brought on by silent migraine. So anybody that has migraines with headaches and aura and all of the things that are migraine related. Now, for your listeners, a lot of people think that migraines are just really bad headaches. That's not true. It is a myriad of symptoms starting from your hair all the way down to your toenails and out to your fingertips. It can be that headache. It can be nausea. It can be diarrhea. It can be exhaustion. It can be photosensitivity. It can be noise sensitivity. There's just a myriad of things that actually make up a migraine. But what a migraine is vascular constriction in the head. So the blood vessels in the head are being squeezed. With me having silent migraines, probably what is happening is I have that low heart rate, typically low blood pressure, and I've got something that's causing vascular constriction in my head. Then I'm under stress, and that's when the Maudé Bartman kicks in. So there are two types of Maudé Bartman syndrome, that is spontaneous, like mine, that is brought on for some random reason, and that is brought on by experiencing passive motions, such as going on a cruise, a boat ride, a long trip on a plane. And so a lot of people that you'll talk to will say, well, I've never been on a cruise. I haven't gone on a plane in a long time. You can get Maudé Bartman without having any of that. And that's the spontaneous version. So this man tells me I have Maudé Bartman syndrome. And I'm like, I got Maudé what? I can hardly say it. And, mind you, my stepdad's a doctor. My mom's a nurse. I come from a family of medical professionals. I'm in the healthcare field myself. Nobody knows what this is. And Dr. Moss told me, you will have to study up on this. You'll never find another doctor that knows what it is. And so now when I go to the doctor, I'm on a medication that Dr. Moss put me on. He told me it would take 90 days for it to kick in. And by 5 days in, I was calling him, telling him he needed to come up with a different treatment plan because there was no way in hell I was going to be able to survive for 90 days because I got to go because my life is stopped. He was like, I told you 90 days. That 90th day, guess what? He was right. Things got a lot better. So there I was. And, as an Enneagram 8, and the Enneagram is really important to me, what I know is that I feel everything in my whole body. And if I don't stop when I reach a certain point of stress, my body will shut itself down, and there will be, and like, I don't get like a cold, I get a neurological disorder. I don't get, I don't get the flu, get a neurological disorder. So time and time again, and here I have these 3 autoimmune diseases, my body will give me something that will make me stop in my tracks to take care of myself. I'm glad for the revolution and the evolution of self-care and those kinds of things, because I will tell you, I'm a person who's always felt like self-care was selfish. Yeah, you're like, girl, I'm about to sign you up for some coaching. That's what I'm about to do.
You wait till we finish.
Because I am all the things that I think so many women try to be in the world today. I'm single, I don't have kids. So it's me. And if the lights are going to stay on, I'm keeping them on. If the food's going to be in the fridge, it's because I put it there. So, and I'm an exceller. I wouldn't say I'm a type A personality in the typical sense, because I know how to cut it off and do nothing. I can go from type A to Z real quick. And I think that comes from working in group homes and being a therapist. I've got the ability to turn it off. It's just when I'm in the thick of it, it's all consuming. So just to catch you up to where I am now, once I got on the medication, and started doing some things pretty conscientiously about my health. Unfortunately, that medication made me gain about 50 pounds, which is, really hard to face. I'm having to make some peace with that and try to figure out how to mitigate that. I have to take medicine to counteract that medicine. It causes really bad edema in the lower extremities. And so being on my feet, walking a lot, can sometimes either feel really good or really bad. It just depends on the day. And also, I'm very much affected by the barometric pressure. I can predict a storm like nobody's business. So a lot of people that have arthritis might say, "Oh, my joints will hurt." So for me, it's that I get dizzier. And so like the last couple of days, a rainstorm has been moving into North Carolina, and I can, have these moments where I catch myself. Every morning I wake up with how bad of a day is it going to be, and to be perfectly honest, most days are really good. Again, Dr. Moss saved my life. I also think it's my attitude about it. And I think that's probably the greatest message that I could send to other people. We're all going to face things. We're all going to have challenges. And what's really important is how we react to them. And I don't want to say this to sound like a Debbie Downer, but, life is a series of disappointments, and it's all how you manage them. And while I think there's this push to always be optimistic and see the glass half full, there's also, in my world, a push to see reality. What am I really facing right now? Because I am a person who is always go, 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 go. And so if I don't force that stop of what's reality versus what am I just kind of making up that I need to worry about, I'm going to experience things like burnout. And the other thing that is challenging for me is I definitely know my cognitive function has changed. I need a lot more sleep. I sleep about 8 to 10 hours a night. I usually go to bed around 8:30, wake up at 4:30.
Yes.
And people even say, "Well, can't you stay up and watch so and so show because you want to see it?" I'm like, "Nope, that's what the DVR thing function is for on Hulu. Nope, don't care. I have JOMO, not FOMO. The joy of missing out is my life." And every weekend, my goal every weekend is to talk to nobody because I need so much time to shut my brain down. When I get to work at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, I am go, 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 go. I worry about everything so that my boss doesn't. As a chief of staff, you're always trying to real-time process confirm that things are being handled, that every detail is being managed. Nothing's falling through the cracks. He has what he needs. Our other senior leaders have what they need. And so at the end of the day, I'm completely depleted. Mm-hmm. And I know it's because my brain has to work harder than it used to just to keep me steady. And coming to terms with that has been gross for me. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It is a gross feeling to know that my cognition is different. But I also don't know that I have to be, it's okay for me to not be 100% all the time. And that's been the hard lesson to learn. So yeah, I experienced burnout and got a neurological disorder that for most of the time is manageable. I would say 10% of the time it's rough. And I definitely know that I pay for it in my brain just being slower sometimes. And on days when I'm really fatigued, I can experience that difficulty with finding the right word, with finishing a sentence, garbled speech. I can be in the thick of something and then absolutely lose where I am. Mm-hmm. And it's not like that typical thing that I used to experience before all this, where you walk into the kitchen and you can't remember why you walked in there. It's not that. It is literally gone. It's gone. And that is super frustrating. And then like 3 days later, I'll be like, "Oh, I didn't actually do that. I totally was going down that road and dropped the ball." Yeah. And so the other thing I've had to do is totally own when I screw something up or when I don't get it done because I just cognitively lost it.
Yeah.
Um, so I wear a sunflower on my badge at work. So we have these security badges, and I wear a sunflower on mine, which is the symbol for hidden diseases, disabilities, and disorders.
Okay.
I also try to speak out on behalf of other people who have hidden disabilities, diseases, and disorders, rare diseases, and to give a voice to this because I'm not afraid to speak up. And I did actually have a podcast a while back where I started it for one reason, but really did have the opportunity and a platform to talk about having a neurological disorder that I look normal and I look fine. And before we started the podcast, you were talking about, you're almost 50. Yeah, I'm almost 50 and I look really good. My skin is beautiful. I don't have any wrinkles. Uh, I'm very active and I'm up at 4:30 and I'm killing it before the day kills me is the problem. I mean, I get up and people are like, why you get up at 4:30? And I'm like, because I got to get up before the day kills me. Um, so I guess giving myself a lot of grace and trying to teach and educate people that you never know what people are dealing with. Because if you met me on the street, if we met anywhere at any time, you would never know that I might be dizzy. I might be more tired than I was the day before, and therefore looking for words to finish, and the conversation is hard for me. And that I'm not who I used to be 2 years ago. And but I'm still pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's right. Gosh, what a story. What an experience or experiences that you have gone through just at the age of 48 so
Yep.
far. And the fact that you're here, you're speaking about it, you're speaking out on it for other people who may not realize, hey, I've experienced some of those things and didn't know to, tie it to, hey, I may need to look into this. I may need to actually contact a doctor or a professional to
Mhm.
help me see if there's something that can be diagnosed. Because a lot of times we just as people, we kind of get used to saying, oh, it'll pass, or oh,
Mhm.
I'll get over it, or it's not that serious, give me a couple of days, I'll get over it, I'll be back to my normal self.
Yep.
And I've learned quite a bit from you already with everything that you've shared. And one of the questions that as you were talking that I wanted to ask you, and whether it's your opinion or just with the knowledge that you've learned over the years,
Mhm.
what are just some other examples of things that people can do or just tend to do that can trigger burnout? I know it's different professions and all of that, but just random, a few ideas.
So, one of the things I'm going to tell you that I noticed about myself right before all of this happened is I started to withdraw a lot.
Okay.
Um, and I, in hindsight, can say I think there was just this level of exhaustion moving in and frustration. And I'm not a person that identifies with my feelings very easily. If you know anything about the Enneagram, you'll know the eights absolutely are terrible at that. It's not that they're not there, it's that I don't access them because they're too powerful and they scare me. And, I think that we live in a world that is, we're supposed to be perfect. I mean, social media doesn't allow us not to be. And I think that as the woman that I had grown to be and had molded myself to be, I mean, look at that career.
Hmm.
I've always managed and directed things. I've always made things go. I got a job at the White House. I did this. I'm just supposed to go. And the truth is, at the end of the day, I'm just a human. And I think that when we don't acknowledge that we're tired, when we don't acknowledge that we're running it into the ground for no good reason, when we don't acknowledge that we don't have to have it all, you can if that's what you want. But it's really not. I don't have to have it all. I've never had it all and I'm probably not going to. And I'm okay with it. But I can tell you the pressure that I put upon myself is greater than any pressure that anybody else could put on me. And so I imagine women that are out there working full time, hustling, doing all the things, and raising a family, and being married, and in the church and in the community. That that makes me like get the hives, right? Just sitting here.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of those things in my life, and it was too much. And I think we get to curate our lives. And if you're saying yes to things that you don't want to say yes to, please stop.
Yes.
That is not wholehearted living. And that is not something that I don't want you here if you don't want to be here. And I don't think that we should have to show up in places we don't want to be,
Mhm.
just to keep somebody happy or to keep some kind of facade going. I think truly living into our greatness is also learning the art of doing nothing and being okay with it and having the people around us be okay with it. I don't think anybody in my life would look at what happened and call it burnout. It was burnout. It was 100% burnout. I was dead in the water. And I'm paying for it still. Um, and so, I don't know if that answers your question, but I certainly think this drive that we have that's false to just press through is so misdirected and misguided.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what you shared, I took notes as you were talking, definitely did answer the question and was helpful. And these are just some things I'm going to repeat a few of them for those who are listening, just to be mindful of. So, if you start feeling a sense of exhaustion or you start seeing yourself getting more frustrated, maybe more than usual, if you start seeing yourself withdrawing,
Mm-hmm.
or also just this one may be difficult, but just not acknowledging being tired. And to me, all of that is kind of, I can put a bow on that by saying, listen to your body. Your body will literally tell you exactly what it needs, or what it needs more of, or what it may need less of.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of us don't listen to our bodies because we feel that our bodies are going to have us feel or look weak if we
Mm-hmm.
stop, if we don't keep going, if we don't finish another few hours of
Right.
work. And
Right. And I'll be telling I'm very strict about an 8 hour day.
yeah,
Now, if I've got to get up early and be at work early one day a week, like I had to be at work before 7 o'clock one day this week, that's fine.
okay.
Totally fine. I'm gonna manage that. 8 to 5, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I take an hour at lunch. I often leave my workplace. Um, and I have a very flexible workplace that really does value, people doing what they need to do to stay mentally and physically healthy. I want to go back to one thing I said about the withdrawing from other people. I would say that if you find yourself doing that, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just sometimes we need to shut down. And if you've got a bunch of people in your life that can't handle silence or inactivity, like, let's say you married somebody who just can't be a couch potato, like, he or she gets up and they're like, taken off before they've even brushed their teeth. That's fine. They can keep doing that. But, I think we got to create safe spaces for us to veg, to do whatever it is you need to do. I don't know if it's knitting or cleaning or whatever your thing is that you need to do to just be in this and nurture this. Sometimes I just need to take care of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I need to just go walk my dog. It's not necessarily always just sitting and doing nothing, but a lot of times for me, it's no conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I need to let my brain turn off. The other thing I do is I get in the bed at 7 o'clock every Sunday
Nice.
and 7 p.m. every Sunday. And I will read or just sit there and hold the dog or stare at the wall or watch TV or whatever. But on Sundays, we go to bed early,
Mm-hmm.
early, early. The geriatric hour. We eat like dinner and bedtime might be the same time. And it's okay because any deficit that I created in the weekend, I'm gonna get it back.
Yes.
Um, I think it's just resting is really hard for us to do in this environment. And to be honest with you, there are days where I miss how the world had to slow down during the pandemic because we were forced to not do a lot of things that we would normally be doing. And I'll tell you, I was built for that pandemic. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it.
Me too.
I was like, oh, we get to stay in the house
Right.
and not see anybody. We haven't seen anybody. This sounds like heaven.
Right.
Um, but I will tell you, I was also the first person to go back into my office.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you where my mindset is. Again, not having kids, not having a spouse, work is my life.
Mm.
Not smart. Been working on that for 2 years too. That life has to be much more than just your job. And part of the reason that I left Charlotte and moved back here to the Raleigh area is because my brothers and my bestie are here. And my life could not be about a job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so balance and getting all that worked out, I'm still a work in progress on that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm one of those people who I also love silence.
Mm,
And
it's my favorite.
yes. And it's so interesting because now I'm aware of it. After kind of going through my own personal development journey and coaching and all of that, I realize that now that I'm aware of my silence, when I'm around other people, they can't be silent. And I'm like, it's okay if we don't just have small talk. It's okay if we're not filling the space with just
Mm-hmm.
words and noise.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if we just sit here side by side and not say anything.
I was having lunch with a coworker the other day, and we're both introverts.
Yes.
And she was like, "Did you bring your lunch today?" And I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, I'm going to run out to the food truck. We have food trucks at work." And she said, "I'll meet you in the cafeteria." So there's like 8 or 10 tables in our cafeteria. So I sit down at a table by myself. And of course, everybody's like, "Hey, Shannon, you can come sit with us." And I was like, "No, I'm going to eat with Mahalia." So we're sitting there and we're like, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes into eating. Nobody has said a word. And I said to her, I said, "Are we two introverts having lunch together or what?" She was like, "Yeah, I don't want to talk." And I was like, "Me neither." So we just sat there and ate in silence. It was fantastic.
Yes.
It was fantastic. And I feel very comfortable with her doing that. There's also another coworker of mine, and he readily admits he's not good at small talk. He just wants to come in and just get down to business. And so, and I was like, I'm not good at it either, really. It's just filler, and I don't have time for filler. And he's like, so when we are in meetings, it's just me and him, we always like force each other to have some kind of conversation about the other person. Because we're like, and then we can just not do this if we don't want to. But we try, we try. We try. But yeah, silence is golden,
Yes, it is.
And I was reading something yesterday about, there's all these lists like, I don't know, the 10 habits of highly effective
Okay.
people. One of them's get up early. And I'm like, well, I nailed that. Okay, I got it.
Yes.
And then one of them was sit in silence for 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I do it for 10 minutes. I mean, 10 minutes is a long time, but I am going to start doing this and set a timer and sit there in silence for 10 minutes and just kind of see what happens. And I want to start doing it during the workday because I wonder if that 10 minutes of silence would give me 10 more minutes in the day of not having to search for the word
Mm.
that I can't find because my brain's tired.
Mhm.
And I think if we can slow down um, in some ways that maybe we aren't right now. I mean, that's a really odd way. Maybe you see me at work for 10 minutes and be like, I got 10 minutes of silence. Don't bother me. Um, but I think it could help. The other thing is, when you are when you're seeing yourself consciously withdrawing from people, and I think I was very consciously doing it. Like I cannot people. It's not an introvert thing. This is, I cannot people.
Mhm.
Um, you got to fight that
Mhm.
because that's not healthy isolation. That is probably a speckle of depression. And it's probably, it could turn into some real maladaptive behavior. I know it did for me. I certainly had deep, dark thoughts that I had not had before. I go in and out of therapy for all kinds of reasons. I don't love therapy because I am a trained therapist, and so it's hard for me to be in therapy. I also experience a lot of countertransference in therapy, and I have to go to therapy because of therapy. It's a great time. If you ever want to do a podcast on that, call me because I
Okay.
got a very good story.
Okay.
But I think looking for burnout is one thing, doing something about it is another, recovering from it is even a different thing. And I still think I'm in recovery. I still think I'm trying to regain my feet underneath me and coming to grips with the fact that I'm not the same and I can't be the same. And I won't go back to where I was.
Yeah. That's that awareness piece. One of the
It's
things
hard.
that is important is being aware of just simply who and what is, who you are and what is going on in this present moment, in this present phase of your life.
Hmm. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier about just staying with reality and not with all the things that are running around in your head
Mhm.
that you could be conjuring up for all sorts of reasons.
Mhm.
My overprotective nature, that's something I do to me. It's not anything anybody else does to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I create all that myself. So really unlearning that
Yeah.
is something I've had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Unlearning a lot of the habits that we've learned, a lot of people in other, with other things that they may be dealing with or experiencing, that's just one of the common things or one of the common practices that almost all human beings are having to do at some point in their lives. Because even if we talk about something totally different, such as maybe a person who as a child was around parents who yelled a lot, and so
Mhm.
now they have picked that up over years, and now whenever they're dealing with the situation or feeling certain emotions, their first thing to do is to yell, raise their voice, get really agitated. And it's simply a process of, if they want to improve on that or get rid of that, they have to unlearn those habits that they picked up. So
Yep.
unlearning certain things, I think, and I don't like to speak in absolutes, but if not all of us, most of us, we have to do that at some
Yeah.
point in our lives, anytime that we want to continue to just be the best version of ourselves that we can be in that moment.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Oh man. Of information. But one thing that I can say is throughout this time of you just talking, your spirit, your energy has been amazing. I know that not every day is perfect. Some days, it may not always be a positive day. You may not always feel, top notch or whatever, or 100%. But I can tell you, just your smile, the giggles that you have, you're able to talk about this and still have that light heart. And I appreciate that. And I just wanted to acknowledge that about you. And I appreciate you just being yourself here. And I can tell that you are very comfortable and you're being yourself right now with us.
Yeah. I mean, you can never predict life. You just can't. That's why you can't have a 5-year plan, in my opinion, because I mean, you never know what's going to happen. The only thing I know is like right now, right
Right.
now,
Yeah.
right now, right now. Don't know 5 minutes from now, just right now.
Hmm.
And attitude is everything. I mean, I know that's so cliche and boring sounding, but because I have such an extensive history with autoimmune disorders, and I have some pretty serious ones. I've got Hashimoto's, which like half the world has. I have vitiligo, which is a depigmentation of the skin. Now, I'm a white person, obviously, so you can't see mine as much, but you certainly can see it if you were in the room with me. And then I also have something called palindromic rheumatism, which is a form of rheumatism that was considered a rare disease when I was diagnosed with it, with less than 250,000 people throughout the world having it. But it's a form of rheumatism that comes and goes. Again, never know when it's going to hit. Woke up one morning with spots on my hands and suddenly I've got vitiligo. Fainted at the VFW and suddenly I have vasovagal syncope. I mean, you I see a lot of people in the autoimmune world that are really letting these diseases run their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that they cause fatigue, and I understand that they cause inflammation, and I understand they make you feel like hell on wheels. It's I'm probably not the most sympathetic person when it comes to dealing with this kind of stuff, because I'm going to tell you life is what you make it.
Yep.
And we sometimes just have to adjust, adapt, and overcome to our circumstances. And, I can choose to get bogged down in all of this, or I can just be like, I'm going to get up at 4:30 and try to kill the day before it kills me. And that's how I see it. And I will tell you, I do have hard days, and I do have days where I'm kind of depressed, and I do have days where I'll have a day at work where I'm like, man, I just was not functional today.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say those are the worst days for me. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm alive, and I don't have cancer, and I have all my body parts, and there's just too much to be grateful for despite all of this. Um, and I guess I just try to see it that way. I'm also a person who trusts science and trusts doctors, and I know a lot of people don't, and I can understand that, but I'm grateful to have found the doctors that help me, and I'm grateful for the medication that allows me to not be as dizzy every day. Um, and so I think just living in a space, and there's a lot of people that live in a space of gratitude. Like, I am not the person who's that like touchy feely,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm living in gratitude that it could be a lot worse. And that, I did have the means to get the resources I needed to figure all of this out, and just, I don't know, the gusto and the grit to keep going. Um, yeah, I'm not going to be defeated by it. I don't have a choice. I mean, there's, you know, some people say, if you don't have a choice, you'll just figure it out and you'll get up and go. I don't know what the cool saying is. That's probably on somebody's wooden sign in their house. But when you don't have a choice, you just figure it out. And there's so many people out there who have just figured it out when life has smacked them in the face. And that's what I had to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that you mentioned the term resources. That's one of the notes that I took. I wanted to ask you,
Mhm.
for anyone who they're not sure that they're going through burnout, it could be an early onset type of level, or it can be, something that's multi-layered, and they just don't know where to start. What are some resources, if you know of any, that can be good places for people who just need to kind of learn more about it and to learn what are some things that they can try to do? Do you know of any resources?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Everybody needs to be getting an annual physical.
Okay. Yep.
If you have health insurance, these are free. If you don't have health insurance or are underinsured, please check with your local county health department. Get a baseline of your bodily functions. Get the annual blood test. Get all of that under, and don't just get it done and have the doctor tell you that it's fine. Get it done and keep the information year to year so you can start to see if your body's changing. I've got Hashimoto's disease. My TSH has been at a certain level since I was about 15. This last year, it doubled. Your thyroid and your thyroid hormone is the thermostat of your body. I'm obviously going into perimenopause. I'm aging, and I've been under stress, and I'm taking a medication that has caused me to gain 50 pounds. Why would my thyroid not get thrown off? For the first time in all these years, and I've had Hashimoto since I was 7 years old. So 31 years I've had this, 41 years I've had this disorder. I needed an adjustment in my medication.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is sleep. For God's sake, get sleep. I don't care what's exciting or what's happening. Learn to FOMO. Okay. Learn to love missing out. Or JOMO. Learn JOMO. Learn the joy of missing out.
Yes, yes.
The other thing is there's so many people out there that have all kinds of feelings about therapy. I am a trained therapist. I don't love therapy because typically when I go into therapy, I get therapists that realize that I'm not really all that of a challenge for them. And there's not a whole lot of things they have to tell me to do. Usually you just have to tell me, like, Shannon, just go do what you know you're supposed to. Okay. Can you just please go do, that's a lot of us need. We just need a kick in the pants. We
Yes.
don't need like somebody to write the book for us.
Right.
So But I hope people go find somebody. And if you can't afford therapy, I totally get that. Go find a human that you can get on the level with. And what I mean by that is somebody who's not going to judge you, somebody that you can fall apart in front of, somebody that you can bring your uglies to. And if you got to pay them to do that, that's fine. If it's your best girl or guy, that's fine too. But I have an amazing group of girlfriends. I go in and out of therapy as I need it. And I did go into therapy when this happened. 100% did. And I was probably more honest with that therapist than I had been with others in the past. I'm very guarded. And so for me, like I've said, therapy's hard. It's hard for a lot of reasons, but I'm also really guarded. And so, um, I'm not great at therapy. Suck at it. Get a hobby. Because here's the thing, the gauge for me is that when I am withdrawing from life, something's up.
Mm-hmm.
Something's up.
Mm-hmm.
So I love plants. In front of me, there's a million plants. Behind me, I always have fresh flowers in the house. This is a Lego flower that I actually built.
Oh, wow.
It's made of Legos. I have flower paintings. Get something in life that brings you joy that is just about you,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. And I'm a big podcast listener, but I wish I could remember this podcast that I found that was it was like the 7 signs of burnout. And I went through that and it was absolutely everything that I had experienced. Um, I really should find that and send it to you. But it was not sleeping. Your diet has changed. I'm not a stress eater. You're trying to self-medicate, so you're consuming maybe more alcohol or other drugs than you would be. All of these maladaptive things that you're like, duh, Shannon, those are all things that, and I'm like, no, put them all together. Put them all together. And for me, it was the withdrawal. It was noticing that I don't want to talk to anybody. And I don't want to be bothered. It was really more, don't bother me. But I would definitely say get a support system, get a hobby, get some sleep, and get some control back in your life if it has spun out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, it was, there was some boundary setting I had to do with family. Certainly some boundary setting I had to do with the job. Not that I was overworking myself, but I probably had more emotional investment in that job than I should have. And again, job being life. No, job is just what pays for your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that list. I'm going to run back through them really quick for those who are listening. And I agree with all of them. So get an annual physical. And as you're getting those annual physicals, keep the records. So therefore, you have a visual and you have proof, so to speak, of exactly
Mhm.
what has changed over time.
Yep.
And that will help you be able to see what's going on with your actual body. Secondly, get sleep. Yes, so many of us are trying to run off of 2 hours and 4 hours of sleep and still thinking
Mm-mm.
they can take on a day. No, I am a fan of sleep. I used to not be. Years ago, I was what could be considered part of the Team No Sleep Club because I felt like, oh no, I have to grind. I have to get this done. Because I was in school, I was working, I was going through a divorce, I was a full-time parent, and it was just like, no, sleep can wait. And I
Mm-mm. No, it
experienced
can't.
it cannot. And I learned that the hard way. And so that was when I experienced my own version or my own burnout. And my body physically fell to the floor because I ran it.
Done.
I was done. And
Done.
when I woke up, I was like, what happened? I was out of it. And that
Mm-hmm.
moment let me know, okay, I have to start taking care of myself.
Yep.
When I'm tired, if my body says I need to sleep, I need to get some sleep. I can't continue to work as if I'm a machine. And from that point on, I started incorporating a little bit more sleep overnight. It took me a while to get to where I am now, which
And the
is
thing is, you are not a machine. We are not machines.
No.
We are humans.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And so now I'm to the point to where I get into bed by 9 and I shut down by 8. I have a clean and clear shutdown time from work. Anything work related, I'm done by 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock, I'm in the bed, and then I just start winding down, and then eventually I doze off whenever I do doze off. So I have my hard closing time or hard turn off time as well. But sleep is so important, and I think that too many of us we we um, we take it for granted. We don't think that it's important. But the other thing, getting a support system, whether it be a friend, a group of friends, therapist, a coach. There are a lot of people, like you were saying, a lot of people actually don't enjoy or want to go see a therapist for whatever the reasons are. A lot of it is a stigma.
Hmm.
But that's why I like to say just go to a coach, because there's no stigma around a coach as it is with therapists. And neither, both will help you in some form or fashion. And so if you're afraid of therapy, well, don't just stop seeking help. At least try a coach or a group of friends, someone that you can be vulnerable with, you can be fully open and transparent with in order to be able to just get it all out.
I mean,
And
find somebody who will hear your uglies and not judge them.
there you go, and not be judged.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then a hobby. Yes, definitely find something that is for you. It doesn't have to be something you have to share with your
Mm-mm.
family, not sharing with your kids, not sharing with anyone else. It's okay for you to have something that is special and only for you. Love that list. Love that list. Thank you so much for sharing those resources. And I think this is a perfect time for us to segue into what I call my fun segment. So,
All
this is
right.
where I am going to ask you one, two, or three different questions about you.
I'm
Nothing
ready.
involving the topic that we discussed today. And I just want you to have fun with it. They're going to be out of the box questions and, be let's just see if we can learn a little bit about you. So,
All
one of
right,
the
let's
first
go.
questions is, what could be one fun fact, either about yourself or about something random that you just happen to know? One fun fact.
Oh my gosh. Fun fact randomly that about me is that I am related to Miss Universe 1980, Sean Weatherly. She is a cousin of mine, and my name is Shannon Weatherly. And one time when I worked at the group home 4 million years ago, I was around about 23 years old. I went to take a kid to the eye doctor and signed in my name. And then when I got into the exam room with the kid, the doctor said, "Oh, you're the beauty queen." And I was like, "No, she's blonde and 40 or something." But she is my cousin.
Oh my gosh, that is super random.
It's super random.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, question number two. Let's keep it going. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh my God. People who ask questions you can Google.
Give me an example. Give me.
So, so so I love plants. Like I love plants. Like I'm obsessed with it, and I'm in a lot of plant groups on social media so that like I can learn like if a plant has some characteristics about it or whatever. So somebody posted this morning that their friend's dog has been sick lately, and they've been eating this one plant, and it's a very commonly known plant called a pothos. So my snarky butt went and got on the Google and Googled, is pothos toxic to dogs? Snapped a picture of it and posted it in the group. Like, you could have Googled this. And if my dog was sick everywhere, I would be on the Google trying to figure out what was up.
Right.
It's like when people ask you, what's the weather in California? Just Google it. My God, why are we talking about that? Silence, people. Get some silence
Yes.
in your life. Just go to the Google.
Yes, and that's one of the common questions involving small talk. I absolutely cannot stand. Hey, what's the weather like?
Uh-uh.
Really? Like
Mm-mm.
that's a classic small talk question.
So
Just
there's this thing called Let Me Google That for You. If you go to Google and type in Let Me Google That for You, what it'll do when you send somebody the answer is it'll type Let Me Google That for You and it'll pop up. I'm serious. Don't ask me questions you can Google.
I love it. I love it. Okay, let's do one more.
I'm ready.
So let's say, okay, so what is your one thing? Now, what I mean by that is What is that one thing that you use as motivation to, or that extra push of strength to get through a to get through your day, to get through something that's tough? What is your one thing that you now use moving forward in any situation?
That I'm gonna get to go to sleep. You think I'm playing?
I believe.
So there's this whole thing about, oh my gosh, sleep is so important. All of a sudden, it's on every podcast. It's in every health, everything, everywhere. Okay. Um, Sleep for me is not about getting on some bandwagon. It saves my life.
Yes.
And when when it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm looking for the right word, like we were talking about earlier, I'm like, God Almighty, I get to go to sleep. Um, so sometimes when I get home, like especially Friday nights, Fridays I am dead in the water, like to the degree that everybody that knows me, like, don't invite Shannon anywhere on Friday night because she ain't going. And I will not be offended. I don't care if all y'all went. I don't care if you were in my front yard. I don't have to be there because I am tired on Friday. I mean, last night I think I climbed in the bed at 7:30 and turned the lights out.
Hmm.
I don't care. If I
Yeah.
wasn't there, didn't happen.
Right.
What gets me through the day is I'm gonna get to go to sleep, and I love it.
Yes. Sleep is a wonderful thing. I mean, when you have 2 nights that you can compare of when you stay up late and then you have to get up at a certain time in the morning and you literally have to peel yourself out of bed versus if you go to bed at a decent time at night and then you wake up feeling refreshed and you feel good and rejuvenated and all of that, there's a total difference.
Yeah, so people pick on me for waking up so early, even on the weekends. Um, I can tell you that when I wake up, I literally am like, all right, let's get some coffee. Let's go.
Yeah.
I don't wake up groggy. I mean, I'm a little dizzy. I might ping pong off the wall on the way to the bathroom for a second, but once I get my bearings, I'm ready to go. And it's because I've had 8 hours of sleep.
Yes.
And I like so many people use a sleep app. I get almost 100% sleep quality every night.
Oh, wow. I'm
And
jealous.
I take certain supplements to do that. I very much listen to Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist out of Stanford, and he has what he calls a sleep cocktail, and it's 3 supplements. And I take them every night. I've been taking them religiously for probably a year or better, and my sleep quality is what I think is so good. So not only do I get to sleep quickly, I mean, it's like 3, 2,
Oh,
out.
nice.
Yeah, so many people are like, if I could bottle this stuff and sell it,
Yeah.
I'd be a bajillionaire. Um, and I used to have that snowball effect, that people get in the bed and they start worrying about everything they didn't do. No, I don't have any of that
Yes.
either. Because I get in the bed and I'm dead and I'm tired and I sleep so hard and I wake up at 4:30 and I'm like, all right, let's go.
Oh,
It's amazing.
yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm one of those jealous people right now. Because it takes me like 2 or 3 hours to eventually get to sleep, you know?
Mm-mm.
I'll get into bed at 9, but I may not go to sleep until 11:30, and I'm
I'm
just
telling
laying
you,
there.
go Google Andrew Huberman's sleep cocktail. It's a
Yes.
great resource. It's very well researched. Like I said, he's a neuroscientist out of Stanford. He's got a great podcast out there, but his sleep cocktail has truly helped me improve the quality of my sleep, not just the length of time I'm in the bed, but I actually sleep continuously for 8 hours.
As soon as we're done, that's the first thing I'm going to Google. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for entertaining us during that little fun segment.
Yeah.
But I want to go ahead and give you one final word, or allow you to give one final word to those who are listening. It could be something that you maybe forgot to share, or just a nugget, or just something that you want us to take away from everything that we discussed today.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really started to think about as 2023 kicked off, and we've survived a global pandemic and we've survived lots of things in the last few years, is that, I think a lot of us who are sort of in these high powered careers and, people who are just trying to hustle their way through life, is we forget that we matter.
Mm.
And while there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of movement about self care and about all of these things. For me, it's just remembering that you matter. You're a human being, and people's view of you and society's view of you and your family's view of you, none of that matters. What matters is that you truly believe that you are a sacred, whole being as you are. And that is regardless of anything that's happened to you. And it is regardless of anything that will happen to you, that you matter. And the first and only person that you truly need to matter to is yourself. I have on my You Matter shirt today.
Oh, nice.
And I really believe that one of the messages that I try to share with people is I want them to know that I think I matter. Therefore, I think you do too.
Yeah.
And without that self-respect and that self-love and that self-mattering, I think it's really hard to value other people's lives too. And we live in a society that sees life as this passing, fleeting thing, that is only to be measured by some external success that may have only happened to you by luck, or some external failure that may have only happened to you because of your zip code or your bad luck. And what I want to say is, regardless of anything, you got to realize you matter. And that will help you see that other people do as well. So you matter. You matter to me. I matter to me. Y'all matter to me.
That's right. Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I believe that. I receive it, and I hope those who are listening that they are able to receive it too, because you are here for a reason and your presence is valuable, and I also hope that you believe that you matter.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon. Oh, okay. So this is where you can let us know if we can support you. Where can we support you? Or if you have other resources that you want to share, just go
Mhm.
ahead and let us know. How can we connect if we want to?
Yeah. So for those that are out there wondering if they have malate debarkment syndrome, we have a rare disease. It is still considered a rare disease, which has certain levels of people that have to have it and that sort of thing. So it's still considered a rare disease. I would certainly encourage you to look to the Malate Debarkment Foundation for information. Very easily searchable on Google. And as far as finding me, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. My name is Shannon Weatherly. And I'm happy to touch base, to tell the story there. It's where a lot of folks have reached out to me to do other podcasts on burnout, mild debarkment syndrome, and other things that I really care about, which is making sure that people with unseen disabilities, disorders, and diseases don't feel alone, and that there's a place for them in this world, and that they don't have to hide from it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that opportunity for anyone to connect with you further. And
Mhm.
especially if it's another podcaster, if you have a channel or platform, consider Shannon as being one of your guests, because she has been amazing today on mine. So that's it for this episode, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is a lot of good information and it covers a lot of things across the spectrum. So be sure to share this out. Someone can take advantage of the information that was discussed here. This can be a benefit and a blessing to someone else. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure that you subscribe. Also, if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. But this is all for our episode today. Thank you, Shannon, for your time. And as always, just remember, when you master your mind, and when you master your emotions, and when you master your assignment, you can live your purpose and live on purpose. Thanks so much. Until next time. Bye-bye.